obviously, like, this story just keeps getting weirder, and the Democrats keep backing themselves further and further into a corner. And part of me wonders if they don't have a choice because of how vehement they are about where they stand on this particular issue. But as this continues to unravel, again, I don't have a legal background, and a lot of people don't, and so I was hoping you could help us understand, what are the merits of her case. Again, when I look at the idea of somebody who's been elected by people to be their representative, and then being had their right to vote on behalf of their constituents taken away for something that feels like a bipartisan misrepresentation of a rule, seems like nefarious in and of itself. But now when she's opposing it, now we have like these judges. So if you could like walk us through like what in the world is going on from a legal perspective.
Yeah, so let's just unpack what's going on here. It boils down to the fact that I am a bit stunned that the Democrats continue to fumble the ball and then pick it up and then fumble it again and pick it up and fumble it again. The case that the constituents of Laurel Libby and Laurel Libby are bringing is a case that is, let me put it this way, because of being foreclosed from speaking indefinitely on the Maine House floor, which is quite a departure from the normal way that any speech is sanctioned. In the U.S. Congress, you can be sanctioned for one day. And there's no need for an apology the next day when the sun rises. In this case, they've sanctioned her indefinitely, which certainly raises First Amendment questions about whether you have a right to free speech on the floor of either chamber. But it's a bigger issue than that. The lawsuit that has just been filed really articulates four claims, and one is based on free speech, one is based on equal protection. The third one is based on due process, and the last one is based on the right. It's actually a guarantee in Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution that we will have Republican government, little r, as in representative government at the state level. So let's go back to each one of those claims. Count one. Now, let me add one last thing here. Those are constitutional rights, but in both the federal law and in state law, and this is filed in federal court, there is something called 42 USC 1983, and lawyers sort of bandy it about and call it a 1983 action. A 1983 action is a statute that says that if a state official or a municipal official violates your constitutional rights, you have a cause of action against them under that statute. And then the question becomes, if you win, what is the relief you get? And you can either get damages, although there's an exception to that because there's something called qualified immunity. If a state official is only acting in their capacity as a state official, you can't get damages. However, you can still get injunctive relief. Now, what does that mean? It means that you can tell those people to stop doing what they're doing. Okay, so what Representative Libby and her constituents have done is they have used this statute, this federal statute, 42 USC 1983, and you can go look it up. And they have said, look, we have four rights that were violated. The first is my right to free speech. Interestingly, I read the briefs, and this right to free speech is pretty well established. They did not include, incidentally, in their legal brief, a case called Bond v. Floyd, which is a 1966 Supreme Court case that says legislators in particular have a First Amendment right that should not be abridged. So that's count number one. Count number two is equal protection. What is that? Well, in our Fifth Amendment, one of those first 10 that's in the Bill of Rights, everybody is guaranteed equal protection. They put the 14th Amendment in after the Civil War to say not only are you guaranteed equal protection as an individual, as a citizen, against the federal government treating you differently, but also against state governments treating you differently. So they are treating her differently. So there's an equal protection claim. The third one is a due process claim, which is to say what they're doing didn't follow the traditional and case law related to how you would properly sanction in a proportional way, presumably, bad acts on the floor of the House. Now, they're not bad acts, but how the majority would sanction anything. So the third one is due process, and the last one is this Article 4, Section 4 guarantee, which is quite novel, actually. It's the idea that we are all guaranteed Republican government, and that, as in little r Republican government, and they've denied that right to her. Interestingly, all of this is now being adjudicated by a different judge. But let's just stop with the merits for a minute. It looks to me, now there are arguments on both sides of everything all the time, but it looks to me like there isn't another situation that has occurred nationally that is even vaguely close to this. There is a Tennessee case in which a majority in a legislature expelled two members, and probably it appears that they expelled them. It's ironic because it was in that case Republicans doing the expelling, and they expelled two black members for speaking out of turn. And I think they were both restored. There are a couple of other state by state examples, one in Montana, one in Florida, in which speech has been silenced by a government official, and either through a 1983 action or something similar, they have restored that party whose rights were taken away from them, have restored the rights to that party. So the big picture on this is you have four claims all saying, I need to get my speech back. My constituents need to get their representative back. And we have a right under Section 1983 to get those rights back again. So on the front end, that's the merits. I completely agree, and I think that every Republican and frankly most Democrats should also agree, because it could be that in 26 the Republicans have the majority, and they should want to have equal treatment under the law, just as they deserve to owe that to Republicans.